Hey, it's Christopher, your Bronze Age nerd, and today we're going to take a look at the comics I submitted to the in-house signing event at CGC headquarters for the legendary X-Men creator Chris Claremont. So as a giant X-Men fan, when I saw that CGC had a signing event for Chris Claremont, I couldn't resist but send in a few books. I ended up sending in 5 books, and we're going to take a look at every single one of them. I took photos of all of them before the submission so you can see the quality. You're going to see me further my horrible grading skills as I try to predict what each of these is going to get. And then when I get the books back, I'll do an unboxing and you can compare my guesstimates or your guesstimates with what grade CGC actually gave the books. I don't have high quality scans, but I did take high quality photos of every single book, tried to capture every corner, tried to capture the interior, tried to capture the cover, any noticeable defects, and the spines of each book. So my hope is that you guess along right along with me and leave your grade predictions for each issue down in the comments below based on what you see in these comics. I'd love to know what you think, and we can play the game together. When I get the comics back, I'll be sure to do a video showing you my first reaction to the score. I don't check out the scores ahead of time, so you can see my reaction, and we'll see how close I was or how close you were to what we predicted. So it looks like we'll get these books back in just a couple weeks from today, since they are scheduled for grading right now, and that's usually the turnaround time I see once something's scheduled for grading. And we can see what our predictions look like. Hopefully we're close. All right, so let's dive right in and look at the first book in this submission, which was X-Men 100. This is the important centennial issue. You have the classic X-Men versus the newer team of X-Men. I think this is the first fastball special as well. Mostly just an anniversary issue is kind of the biggest thing this comic's going to be known for, and a classic cover. So this comic, we can see right away that there is a lot of color rub throughout the entirety of the cover, especially visible along Cyclops on the spine, and then also again in the shadow that's at the very bottom of the cover. You can also see some like a crease on the top right corner. You can see a crease on the bottom right corner as well. And if you look closely, you'll also notice some damage on the top left corner. Unfortunately, I did not include the bottom left corner in this photo, but we'll see it more in detail later. So starting at the top left spine side, we'll see that most of this doesn't look too bad, except for that actual corner. And if you're eagle-eyed, you might notice some of the spine ticks that are visible, that are going to be a little bit more obvious later on from a different angle. So that corner right there tells us, hey, look, guess what? We're not looking at a 9.8. let's just move down from there swiftly. In fact, I'd say that's pretty much, well, I don't even know, like a 9.2 would be what we're at, assuming that's the only issue. I'm probably wrong about that. It's probably even lower. So on the front top right corner, we can see that there is this color breaking crease, a couple of them actually, and we can also see some chipping, or not chipping, I guess, but some indentations along the edge of the cover. And there's also a bigger crease, or a couple creases we'll see running down through Colossus's arm that start much higher up. It's interesting, they don't really look like they break color until they get towards Colossus, but honestly, the color of the cover makes that harder to determine for sure. Here's a little bit different angle on that, and you can kind of see that we are definitely looking at some significant stresses there. Moving along to the bottom part of the cover, you can see more of that scuffing we were talking about earlier, and as the new information we're going to get from this photo, you can also see that the bottom left corner on the spine there is blunted, and we can start to see that damage along the spine a little bit better. On the bottom right of the front cover, we can see more of that creasing that takes place along that edge. Some of that will press out, most of it won't. There is another pretty long crease that we can see that's pretty evident here as well, that is color breaking. So looking at the spine in a little bit more detail from the side, We see the extent of some of those spine ticks. They're a little nastier than might have looked like for when you're looking at it straight dead on. And also looking at the bottom part of the cover, we start to see some really significant spine ticks, definitely larger than 1/16 an inch, 1/16 of an inch in length. And we can get a better look at the blunting on that spine bottom left corner. This photo I took just to kind of show some detail that's happening along Colossus's torso there, where there's some rippling in the cover. That luckily should press out just fine, so that's nice. But you do also get a kind of an idea of the extent of some of those creases along the cover. And again, some of those will press out and some won't. Looking at the back of the cover here, we can see that this is a fairly dirty cover in the white portions. We can also see that the top has some damage. It's a little bit more evident than the bottom. And here on the top corner on the left side, we'll see that there's a crease there that the dirt really helps reveal. So cleaning will help that a little bit, and pressing should help the rippling damage on the edge of the top part of the cover that you can see on the right-hand side of this photo. And same here, you know, hopefully a nice clean job on this will help a lot of this white area look a lot better and kind of hide some of the damage there. Here we can see the evidence on the back cover from the spine ticks that were evident on the front cover. And nothing really new here. We kind of expected that we were going to have some ticks that go all the way through the cover. Getting to some really good news about this book is the interior pages look great. Unfortunately, that's probably one of the least important things to CGC. But it does look great. We're probably going to get white pages out of this comic as well, which is really nice to see and welcome. So basically, looking at this comic and the totality of the damages I see on it, I have to straight up admit that this is going to be the hardest comic from this batch to grade accurately. It's mid-grade, which is tough, and it's probably, in my estimation, which is far from an expert opinion, a 6.0. That's what I'm going to go with on the grade recommendation, or the grade prediction on this particular comic, based on what I can see. It could be lower. It might be higher. The thing that makes it kind of hard to judge is the ability of the clean and press to take away some of those defects. Even with what's remaining, though, I think we're looking at a mid-grade book, and I think we're kind of in the right ballpark with a 6.0 on this one. All right, so let's look at the next comic in this submission, and here we have a copy of X-Men 120, and this is the first appearance and the first appearance in cameo of most of Alpha Flight. Looks like a pretty good comic from here. We definitely can see some stuff that is going to be helped by a press with some more warping on the right-hand side of the cover. We also see a tiny crease on the bottom right of the bottom corner there. Looking at it a little bit closer up, still looking pretty decent. We're not seeing anything that stands out. You can make out a couple little spine ticks here. A couple more spine stresses are evident along this bottom left corner, and you can kind of see that there is a crease that runs horizontally below the Chaos in Canada wording, and there's also that ugly little corner crease on the bottom right there. The back of this comic does look pretty clean, actually, all things considered. There is sort of a crease or a sun faded kind of looking damage on the bottom, which is worth noting. It does look like we have white pages on this one. In the book insignia there, the team logos, near Nightcrawler's head, you can see one kind of nastier looking spine stress, and a couple towards the bottom right of this photo, you can see a couple more spine stresses. And I think we're going to be looking at a pretty solid 8.0 here. I'm interested to see what you guys think. Let me know down in the comments below. And next up in this submission, we have an absolute classic cover and story, Days of the Future Past, Part 1. This is actually the comic that's in the submission that's been in my collection the longest. I've had this comic for 25 plus years, and definitely one that I'm excited for personal reasons to get graded. The top left corner here looks pretty good. There is a couple spine stresses that are visible on this quadrant of the comic. When you look at the front right hand corner, it looks fine. Bottom left, we definitely can see like near the staple, there's one pretty good stress that runs off of that bottom edge of the staple. And there's also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spine stresses that I can see. However, it does look like one of those, maybe two of those, might not be color breaking. So those might come out in a press, which would be nice. Front right bottom corner does look pretty good. I mean, there's a tiny little chip there on the edge, but that does look pretty intact. And then when we look at the top part of the spine here from the side, here's where we start to see a lot of tiny spine stresses. Maybe, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 that are visible. They are pretty small. And then here, a closer look at the bottom half. And yeah, again, this is where you get a couple of the bigger spine stresses, and there are a decent number of them. But most of them are still pretty faint, which hopefully will help a little bit. This comic book, I think, is probably going to end up being in the second worst grade in this submission. The back cover, I think, will clean up pretty nice. There is a lot of gunk along the top right hand side of the back cover, but that should clean off pretty well. Here's a little bit of a closer look at that. And pages, my instinct is to say white pages. I might get white to off-white, but I think it looks pretty decent. But in summary on this Days of the Future Past comic, I think we're probably looking at about a 7.0. All right, so next in the submission, we are going to check out this copy of Uncanny X-Men 221. It's a newsstand copy. And this copy is going to probably be the highest grade book in the submission. From looking at the front cover and then zooming in a little bit on the top left, we don't really see much. Same thing for the top right. Now, this was very tricky to get a good photo of. And full transparency, when I was taking these photos, I was rushing to send this thing out because I was trying to meet the deadline for submission on this particular Chris Claremont submission. So I was a little bit under the gun. I didn't have very long left on my break to do this. But there is a crease that is almost certainly going to press out here that is kind of visible below the X-Men logo. But yeah, it's probably going to press out anyway. Bottom left corner looks pretty good. Bottom right does have some blunting, so that's worth noting as well. And here we don't see any visible spine stresses, it looks like. So it looks like we have a few spine stresses here in the middle of the cover. One of them looks like it'll press out. There's two baby ones there that look like they might break color. The back cover here, you'll notice the biggest flaw on this book. I mean, there's some dirt that should clean off, but if you look at the top right cover, that's where you'll notice the biggest problem with this book. Top left looks pretty good. When we get a little detail here on the top right, though, that's where you'll see that there is a couple, I mean, it probably got dropped on its corner at some point, basically. And I think that'll look a lot better after getting pressed, but that's still probably going to get dinged. And looking at the rest of the back cover, looks pretty good. The pages on this one, I'm going to call white pages, and hopefully we're right about that. So looking at this book, I'm going to be the most optimistic about this one and say that I'm hoping for a 9.4. A 9.2 definitely is in the realm of possibility, but I'm going to go ahead and put down 9.4 as my prediction on this one. All right, so let's jump into the only non-X-Men book in the submission, and still a very popular X character, of course, Wolverine 1, and this is his first issue of his ongoing series. Classic cover there. Absolutely one of my favorite Wolverine covers. And even just from this zoomed out picture, you can see that there is a spine stress below the number box. So that's a really evident one just from back here. And here you can see that a little bit closer up. It just on the black there that just shines through like a beacon in the night. Upper right corner looks pretty good. Bottom left corner, you do see a couple more spine stresses that are color breaking. And bottom right corner looks pretty good. Here's a little closer look at all those spine stresses in total. Luckily, there's none in the middle there, but still have some in the bottom and some in the top. We're going to look at white pages. This paper, I think this might be Baxter paper. The paper it's printed on is very forgiving, so we're looking at white pages. And on the back cover, a couple little scuffs are evident. Also, that's just a great back cover, by the way. And I'm going to go ahead and give this one, with the length of the spine ticks and some of the damage on the back there, I think we're looking at probably a 9.0. So that's what we're looking at for the Chris Claremont signing event for the comics I submitted. 5 cool X-Men or Wolverine related books. You know, I do hope we get good grades on all of them, of course, but CGC is not handing out grades like their participation awards. They actually are grading their books a little bit more stoutly than they have been in the past. So we have to keep that in mind. The one that I'm the most nervous about by far is the X-Men 100. It's the one that I couldn't peg down the grade on the most, I feel like. And the one I'm hoping we see the highest grade on would be the X-Men 120 for sure. That's a book I'd really like to see come back in a high grade. But the grades are what they are. So we'll see what we get. Hopefully, you know, we can just cross our fingers that they're generous that day. So don't forget to leave your grade predictions in the comments below. If anybody's right on, I'll make sure to try to shout you out in the video where I do the unboxing, and we can see how close we got. And as always, I just want to thank you for watching one of my videos. Hope you have a great day. And just remember, hey, read comics every day.